Hi everyone. Hi, my name is Aymeric Salley. I represent KPMG, where I'm co-leading the blockchain and digital assets practice. So we help our clients with sensing, with compliance, with governance, go-to-market strategy, and plenty of stuff in the digital asset space. My background prior to joining KPMG is from the industry. Look at the stablecoin issuance. So I first started my journey in the industry with capsules. At the time when they were releasing the first instance of tokenized products, I worked on a few stablecoins. I worked on tax gold, which is one of the first instances of tokenized gold, and I believe it's still the leading token out there. And then I went on to perform the Singapore-based business for Stratex, which issues the only Singapore dollar regulated stablecoins. So my background is in blockchain infrastructure, and 2.5 years ago I went and made a move to join KPMG to be the leader digital asset practice. It's my great pleasure today to be joined by, honestly, a superstar panel of speakers. Congratulations to Darien for assembling such a great panel. We have the FinTech Lawyer of the Year. We have the market maker that is leading the ecosystem in Singapore. We have the first instance of tokenized money market fund, so congratulations for this. I'm very excited for this panel today because I was mentioning my journey in stablecoin. When I first joined the space, there was one stablecoin, was USDT, and the market capitalization was $2 billion. And at the time, it seemed huge, right? And now you know it's over $280 billion. There are over 250 stablecoins out there. It's probably the trending topic at this conference. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone has a stablecoin strategy. And when we talk about tokenized securities, I feel like we are at a similar moment that in there back then for stablecoins. So below just crossed $2 billion in market cap. Benji is close to $1 billion. We are around the same sort of magnitude. So I'm really excited for this space. I feel this is one of the most exciting corners of our industry. We have some of the best representatives with us on this panel today. And let's hear from them. So I'd like to turn to them and ask maybe a first question. Let's start with the basics, right? What about tokenization? What are the benefits? Why are we doing this? And do you share this excitement and this picture I just drew about where the industry is at? And maybe starting with our capital markets experts. So I don't know if Giselle or CJ on the spot.
Just starting from the basics. I think everyone, this to call from Fidelity International. I can hear pretty quick about Fidelity presently across in the digital asset space. We have Fidelity Craftsman that you guys already got this research and product 10 years ago. And of course, they also one of the largest issuers when it comes to ETF in the US. And we are Fidelity Flash model. We are also the issuer in the commodity space, as well as doing a lot of activation around tokenization. So the question that what's about activation and why is important to the motion? To us, it be as a natural evolution of how financial models actually represent. One of the ways to look at it, if you look at the traditional fund space, is that current indication, everything is how a record on a different system that leads to a security segment called. Then you start to go, you can actually occur to ECS, for example, which allow the process is called trade intraday. You can also use ETF that are like natural with the utility. And the idea of optimization is an upgrade version of ETS because things can be shared or put on a blockchain ecosystem that can make things more efficient and scalable. So we can potentially trade beyond the to gain power and take a personalized that could be more actually this case. So but these are the beauty when it comes to nice one line showcase of that couple. I'm so sorry, thank you. Going.
Speaking of this, just equal of the so-called the erection symbol of the ring, very kind of this evolution of passion card, tip and vision measure. Very good.
On the screen. One question: is this being recorded?
It's not.
Great. Nobody's catting.
I'm only engineer this with GSR 2017. GSR 6.story. We are the only graduated market maker in Singapore, coming Silicon Nation. We've been all on top of these cases, digital proof in the corner. My background actually is from Wall Street. I would build the structure on top. So if you want to kind of trade for interest rate, currency, or capital.
Am I excited about it? Yeah, I think if you're already put that, I think if we are in financial market business, we should be extremely fair.
We are primarily moving market systems, transparency. Trading was a good thing in price stock, just letting them know. But as a platform, should you be super excited at it if you are a rapidly trading resource? Probably not. And the reason why is a lot of stuff. I'm giving you one thing Ipicos mentioned, one calendar could have cost all a lot, is we are still covered by legal premium, which was the crediting that was preferred as the security laws. And these are individualistic, region to region. I can joke that's great, but we are set up the whole thing, the US, the London, Switzerland, is completely different. Because of that, variable strain right now, really swap, or the retail well, even $100 may not last. So that is something where, and the reason why I say this is no big thing, and I'm not very personal following, because I put them on my panel, first thing people tell me is, $1 billion value tokenized. Well, that's great, I would not see us. And that's just the reality of that.
Matthew, we heard a lot from you in the previous session, but is there anything you'd like to add in terms of your vision for the ecosystem? Where we are at in terms of the stage we are at in terms of the inversion of the infrastructure we are moving toward, in terms of DEP, in terms of 24/7 trading. We come from a background of traditional capital market. I think the infrastructure was built mostly since the 1980s, has remained the same. This seems to be the next iteration. How far off are we now?
How far we are? Good question. I don't really know what's going to happen in the next 6 months or how long, but I think there's a lot of science or passion, a lot of building going on, but all that building was separated, so very fragmented. In short, that we built we didn't connect the old with shut moment, so that's and I do think a minute ago before we came up around, strictly last the pages, we're so restricted to position payment break. So until we start seeing ways how gotcha various coins or token deposits or some form of on-chain payment rails that would relying on say or strict you got. And what was pronounced a big guardian in tokenized forms of moving. So we tokenized funds, we now need the other parts of industry to come on board. So we pains provide the custody provide the contacting foci. And it brings awareness and payment and whatever we'll see.
I love the idea actually. So I think going back, cleanness, other thing. We are trying to do operation being infrastructure level tactics ended. So it's not immediately that you'll be able to have everything below. It sets that first we can make it a multi-chip, you can make it proper of chip, you can make it cross frame kilometers upon the frame types of infrastructures, and then moves up. I think honestly from on regulatory 10 years, because it's true, right? They're not ample funded, they're not okay, that's all is but we still have to have the
is regulation into oppositions on cut about it. So there are a lot of things that cannot be behind to how then we hack infrastructure that can end up with the looking of big shit. Hustling, killing, blockchains, anything that so yes, it's hard so is what can it could be how we will try to right, but we can't do the champion now. The immediately evolve now.
Yeah, so hi everyone. So my name is Grace and I head the financial regulatory practice at Drew. So we cover a lot of regulatory developments, offerings of a lot of tokenized products. We help to bring them to market and to launch them. I would say that in the last 2 years, we have seen increased focus on financial market infrastructure in particular. So I'll explain a little what I mean by this, okay? So definitely everyone has been talking about tokenization for a long time, tokenized real estate coins and tokenization real-world products and all that. But I think in the last 2 years in particular, we have seen the securities regulators, the exchanges look at really a model of how they retrofit existing financial market infrastructure systems. Some of the interoperability layers for DVP and which Equitized Democratic Competence has mentioned is going on, and basically a lot of the securities market regulators have been looking at sandboxes to explore how stable coins can be used as a cross model to actually work on projects for offerings whereby tokenized bonds, stable coins, and different types of products can interact on a common system or common platform to enable at the same time a common standard for collateral, recognizing collateral, and settlement finality. So that has been the retrofitting going on, right? And the second phase, which I have been seeing in, which is the quite wonderful future which everyone has been talking about, especially this year, that was triggered by the Bank of International Settlements, which is the whole focus on unified ledgers. So that I've been thinking a lot about before, because quite similar to you, I actually started off my career actually looking a lot at derivatives. So actually, before I decided to become a lawyer, I was a Lehman Brothers structured fund management scheme. At that time, at the peak of the crisis, so definitely derivatives was a lot on my mind. And 18 years ago, I actually wrote a paper on the risk of a unified centralized repo and the legal and systemic risk inherent in such a model. And we're actually walking towards a unified ledger model in some ways and thinking that it could solve a lot of the issues which we are seeing in the market. So I do think that the balance, thank you how I've seen across the last 17 years in Africa, 18 years in Napoleon or so, is actually a balance between both, whereby we are looking at different types of fits, and this is where models that occupies come in, unregulated, tokenized technology players that are keen to come in to add some action, to add some flexibility of how the interoperability works between the different platforms for traditional technology. But at the same time, when it comes to traditional capital market products, how you make it more seamless. So I think that will be the third phase, which is interesting, when retrofitting traditional technology finds that balance in between unified ledgers.
Across the few of you, I heard very interesting views. I heard cracking. I heard Pragmatic as one of the key in solving the cardiology support entire blockchain ecosystem. Hyperdiverse scanners, which is simply what we need to rescue to achieve some of that solvability in order to make. And I've heard really quite gradual have a vision for the future. So if we all rely on these changes, on this vision for the future, I think that's great to understand where we are at now. Because just the sales stage or the selling organization across our countries, that we are looking at different tokenized security. And as I understand it, right now there are different models, different tokenization structure. I heard the digital twin, I heard other variation.
I think Darien and Grace, particularly, you guys have ported or Junkie, they got a caper, I think if I compare earlier this year. Can you just tell us, like, what is the stage that we are at again in terms of tokenization structure, and are we converging to the one model?
So you are immediate report based William. This because what post recommendation kids over the past 2 years we started looking up is that there are all the different structures are there, and a lot of them, most of them actually, they are what we call variable films, and that's something that that is effective in just medical traditional card that they wouldn't then have a efficient registry unless as a why in pioneer BAT we're gonna stand structures exactly because of the online characters that talk about it. So I think that's a very important thing, but of course a minute today is to extend and share rather than what the differences are. But I think right now what we're seeing in the market is that there are more and more asset managers, ground managers that have gone. They start to realize that needed tokenization is important because VM or the underlying markets or what it could be, and start to see a very big shift going towards it. Perhaps no longer are we just talking about farm by the small wheel coming. And that's a very important feature. And you are getting very, very close to it. On track, Xinling is just mentioning that has been religious amounts yesterday that they have now implemented systems that can then support this. So we start to see an industry shift towards meter structures and making them very poker, and then starts to become very weak. It's a good thing because it's sign of the influence or position.
So definitely was a big pleasure to work on that document, and I must also give credit to Kyo, my team here who worked a lot on the paper and a lot of hard research on this. Thanks very much, Kyo. And definitely I would say I would agree that most of the demand, or after analysing a lot of the models in the market, we did land on the fact that digital twins, which is off-chain ledger models, seem to be more popular than really trying to fill an entire on-chain ledger. So just now I mentioned a bit about retrofitting existing models, right? And it's a bit like that, whereby you try to use the traditional system and you try to build in traditional ways of distributing traditional type documentation, and you are essentially strong-arming the documentation through the distribution, right? But the innovating part is that you are moving in custodians, administrators, different layers of folks who now add more efficiency and gain experience in being able to do this, to finally move towards a digital native model, whereby I think now we are seeing a lot more comfort also for collateral in digital asset, and that will be the game changer, because if there's a common standard shared between different jurisdictions for margin, especially our expert director structure here knows that margin will turn the whole world around, and definitely when you have common standards for margin collateral that speaks across jurisdictions, that could mean a more facilitated way of going in and out of different products as well. The last one is the ledger method. We came up with this term. I don't think we actually found that term published anywhere, so it's a zoo term in case you can find it in our paper. And that was because some of our clients were asking us interesting questions like we only want to tokenize one sub-fund, or we only want to tokenize at the distributor level. So we started exploring some of these questions and realized that actually there's not that much complexity to it after all, but there are interesting questions about tax and some of these elements. But basically we see the whole industry really working together to try to consolidate on front of these aspects, which is quite exciting.
The industry working together, we have some of the industry with us. But ADE we have helping Templeton. Is there a convergence of views on particular topic? And do you consider in still exploring, or you have a time mark?
Yeah, I did share of the guidance international journey. I think industries have shown the Takata got model, host the model issues happen to keep model because in a way the critical catalyzer to cut through got the go of Carolina technology. Of course, as part of the shop teaching corporation it should be really like the content how big connect could be compression. But for us, for example, we partner with a digital asset card and international platform, Switzerland and UK, and they our distributor who created digital twin and distribute to the handicrafters who are the to the distributions wants to at least impact that money market accounts in the total format. So to us, it's our process to grow our wish to the digital asset ecosystem at the same time to decrease the AUM of our past. And because that, of course, we know that it's not enough because ultimately process what we're up for is increase security or how we can kind of language of chain technology to improve efficiency and digital currency. So hence, we also start working with chain example to build out any on chain. And the second step that we brought the cost faster. Ultimately, the aspiration to issue digital exit funds, which hopefully can go become equal to the total. Again, that I've seen some official nuances. I think that will be it could decisive, the valuable discussive, and the fundamental discussive. Kosako, it is like a sort of passionate, which is say cons a lot or CBDC potentially a lot of customers are looking at now. If you in the onshore itself, currently some table calls aren't really able to recognize how it is transfer come. So meaning that if you also have chain come, you see you have a transaction out of construction. And I was using this is impression in between when I was solve the regulatory concern. Another part I would say is the liquidity part. Because of the Company Act that technological of uncle, still got treasuries contributional assets. Clearly that this did help get bookkeeping this cash over the weekend. So I thought my job can Scott to kick people. He lost help with our national fund professor since the people who are as all had the case to fake the big cook openly can to really prosecute that symphony measured process that is set towards to the end goal.
Lo si immagina poi con le prego, e che it is a te also can stand this to Spain approach and meet it. We personal second band use we did 2 year euro. All chain, don't chain no facts that succeed works and we switched up your plane. So we did that all and then yet good but more is a lot aspects. Think about the only I will highlight that we're all about public blockchains. We come to blockchain model. It's all about and we don't really apply a permission scenario to be assembled. But we holding the public and do a fake experiment. I think a lot of the regulate spoke behind both we understand the only way that everybody learn before we experiment and that's how they.
And this is really insightful. So now we know that there are benefits to tokenization. We know how to design tokenized bonds. So started with mirroring of chain on chain. Now we're at the stage of digital tree. Everyone is headed for digital native token. Now that we know this, I imagine the next step is distribution. And I heard Giselle talking about the big mismatch. The CJ on the panel. Huge experience with this crypto. You currently make any state in the crypto ecosystem or two when it comes to fragmentation, when it comes to granting the liquidity. What is it that we should do differently when it comes to tokenized bonds? And what opportunity did you see for like yours and the pain point that Giselle was described?
I feel like a big door from Kara. I wish it was a ship on, right? As you could write a hot see, we got some stuff, some good concepts. It wasn't good concept of stories. So here, provider, polygon to the other line, you have to revise the calling you say, you see that software. Then to be able to train and run your more, I would apply a trick, you see, and be possible, right? Most of us ability this lecture is something that we solve. interestingly enough, this is not just us foray into how do you figure out the income problem. We did this during first talk, like the later started, he just talking private over here. And then he go to Monday with emotion at 8:50 in the morning, just terrible morning. The fact of the matter is it hasn't been pushed out, but the way you approach it is we can also some that stop Koji, absolutely correct, with the shika, absolutely kind of like a couple of days, so that can take into account. I agree, I mean, better kind of say it to the stuff. That side was us up, that side was the bonus operating to custom as duration. And at the other side, we look at how first concept is, all right, I'm going to pay you at those jobs. And that's the only thing that has more people figured out. Yeah. I think this is very good for a thing. I can always reminisce that when I was shuffle, and shuffle was something we to approve. The worst kind of shuffle, it was some amazing products. Some of ASI's probably be for us, for high school. But then you do as looking at a trick. On a great church, it's fantastic, beautiful, it is art, it's awesome. But nobody was buying. And I kind of feel that's we have to be very careful about our standards. But the benefit is right now in that tokenization era, it's going to remain within institutions for a while. But that's not a bad thing. That's a concept circuit. Because that's where we get per process registered before the go up. My cost of validation of the asset. The most successful case, I think, the most shocking part of where you are now is the fact that we're selling it up in the world right now is look how can they keep elevate or silk. That's if I put my money on chain, I can make this option. And I think that's opportunities. The people in other words, if you want users, if resource want B process, it use us to offset the family to go and buy funding butter. They use not the water. They cannot get swapped, you know what I mean? They therefore sell was gas. There's a code that you can't do that from one. You need to have this data saying, and there are saying, I want the thing, saying this is a lot for
Popularity.
it's unpopular, but that is how it is. And by doing that, you then have adoption by mass, and that's how you prosperize.
Thanks for this. What's up, Darien? What are your views on distribution? Because you talked to us about the product of the team. We talked about the value chain, how we bring this to market. What are the challenges that you see, and what are the key pain points you think need to be addressed?
So I think very much adding with DJ Con. How honestly my dual vision of tokenized accounts in 5 years from now is that all of that blockchain connectivity will be what that means is that traditional brokers will be able to in IVT distribute these tokenized accounts and there were traditional accounts. And if we can then incorporate all this blockchain chemical extracts, we will then be able to offer a much better product into the traditional capital market, which is the huge, right? And what's very exciting about that is that we are not trying to do how a market that is. We're not trying to do what at the end of the day, we're not trying to reimagine the market. Right? We're called imagine the market, trying to improve existing structure of existing multi-level, and that's why they is so. Right? So when it comes to distribution, the idea and I think the end state is that we should have infrastructure, and I talk about financial market infrastructure from old, right? We should have that to the form where we are now able to distribute tokenized securities, the tokenized product, in a manner that is able to serious that's
I'd like to also double click on something we've heard before from Matthew and from Giselle also, okay, now let's assume we have tokenized securities, they're well designed, up to standards, they're well distributed, we have access to it. Well, to deliver the benefits, we still remains the digital money, like right, you mentioned it. We need to be able to actually delivery versus payment, T0 settlement. And
we have good instances of that digital money ledgers, instances of stablecoins today, regulated or somewhat regulated, representing different credit risk profiles, stablecoin issuers, DC banks that are coming to the table, starting reaching tokenized deposits, some central banks looking at their wholesale CBDC for settlement above. Just, I'd love to hear from the industry, what is good digital money leg from your perspective, and do you care as a asset issuer? Do you care whether your Benji is settled with USDC, or you require a tokenized deposit, or you like to see different rates of digital money?
From our perspective, I think what good digital crime is what the users want. And I think that's the kind of primary purpose of having what users do for the digital money transaction. Of course, from the compliance and regulatory standpoint, there are the digital money needs to achieve a certain regulatory threshold, and then how this block top, because it's a area that the stable coins regime is working towards right now, because we have more clarity from calculators globally, and now it's about issuers are able to empower license based on the common standard. So I think this is a key step to define what are the potential good non-visibly or let's say already có hệ CBDC họ we see current ethical jurisdictions couple have two different powers họ initiative how progress and Allah and that's very easy why and you could decision to try to push it in different way while the broadly most issuers got sufficient stable economics cannot be too easy. But it also could not initially see evolve. There are some petitions like Hong Kong can do it circular or G equal take upon a CDC and see how cakes pay out, and that will see how we both will guide it and then update about use of option. And of course, Hanashi will take global registry are good.
And yeah, it's probably just elaborate because I was saying earlier, we need different parts of the industry to be prepared to well, if we trade USDC today into the 1 month and all the way into the cost they can investment is people. So someone can have go on or back at some point, right? And today already, cheap kind of was circulation people very happy for the sunny. Gucci was a sort of yeah, people that are not like popular so we are always in government of the government, so they learn by treasury, merchant papers, whatever I couple a stable cookie cut by what is said. So asking that the reason that industry organization that reason as well was okay, go hunt, great. Here we go, like say the concept. And the best entity be coin top by Persian law com or where then is like the whole chain on the update. So get the solution for you.
So I think I learned quite early on about looking at the cryptogen that sometimes it's not the quality or pack metrics of the stablecoin which each want to be dictated. It's really also the adoption, the circulation, which is why we continue to see a lot of USDT and USDC be waiting the market still in terms of circulation. I think some of the important aspects in how some of the newer stablecoins have tried to infiltrate markets is through the use of stablecoin incentives. So just like we have PACFin and FinTech, in terms of payment platforms and how payments circulate, we see a lot now of FinTech and almost like CapFin in the sense that a lot of payment providers are trying to distribute capital market products, right? And exchanges trying to do tokenized equities and basically they're mixing platforms in order to integrate the use and distribution of such products. This is where the trick aspects of law. Let me give you an example in Hong Kong. Yeah, so I could look at the Hong Kong regime in particular because we get a lot of licensing queries and we are helping some of the entities to get a Type 1 uplift in Hong Kong to basically do stablecoin de-impact services as well. And in that context, we ran to an issue whereby unless the stablecoin issuer is licensed in Hong Kong, that particular stablecoin becomes restricted to professional investors. And there's no real number published as to the number of professional investors in Hong Kong, but in banding grounds, around 2%. 2% of the market, right, restricted to the use of that particular stablecoin, which, by the way, USDT prime covers about 80% of the Hong Kong market, despite the endeavors of quite a lot of the new stablecoin players to penetrate the Hong Kong market. So what does this mean if we do want to use one of the regulated stablecoins for cap market products? And what does this mean if we are dealing with the new regulatory regime, which wants to license a whole gamut of new players, OTC dealers, and payments, whereby the regulator has never really governed payments before, stablecoins. So those are interesting issues whereby as the scope of distributors increase across borders, we start to face the issues of legal, we start to face the issues of how stablecoins work between jurisdictions, and a lot of the gray areas come in, which are kind of fascinating, so as a lawyer, so that's the part where I think you do have more work to gain.
Thanks for this. I have I'm looking at the time, one last question, and that everyone on the panel who heard that also. Because and I can share my view of where we're at, and feel free to disagree. I'd very get your candid opinion on this. But I feel that I've been looking at asset tokenization for a long time. I mentioned my involvement in the early days of tax gold. And for the longest time, we priced or tokenized the wrong thing. There are a lot of real estates, a lot of different assets that it's impossible to keep a liquid marketplace. And so there was not much happening in this space for a long time that I can get really excited about. And we are now at this stage where, as I mentioned, we feel like we're at the inflection point, 1 billion, 2 billion for some of the funds. Strong focus on US treasuries as an asset. Now, do you share that this could be an inflection point? And what else do we need to reach sort of exponential growth stage? What are the related roadblocks? We see there is tailwinds. I think everyone has been looking at what's regulatory base of the US this year. Genius Act, but not only, Sub 121, a few others. So there is definitely regulatory tailwinds, that's fun, and the US market we should all care about, obviously. But what are the other remaining roadblocks, and what are you most excited to see happen to enable that, what I believe is going to be exponential growth symmetry?
Okay, so it's if you could on that, right? You do that the utilization curve rate. So first rate is 70, second rate within a team to one. Now curve rate the pyramid curve, right? First two ways you should correct anything. Trying to recognize non-annual products, non-annual products. And then in between the token take for like 6 to 8 years now. Finally, Dubai that's done happening. So here are studies see that, but realistically speaking, this grade of tokenization is where Darien actually got a lot more. And the tech came a lot of clarity to deal with tokenized security, which I think is one of the key products that really found product market in domestic, right? And I need the current very see very much in the recent periods of this market. But I think less that if Aymeric is mentioning about interaction point, I think that is a very important interaction point because first kind is also appreciated. Once we have that, we can then start keeping different reports together, right? We are talking about having different hubs in the entire ecosystem to be on BRC supporting blockchain, and that's probably settled, right? So you have to then get an entire value chain tokenized, being comfortable to be driven
blockchain the default is being a tokenized securities. Once you are there, and once you're only 100 blocks together, that's when you can fully realize the benefits of tokenization. And it's now going to sudden improve towards it, and that's some real scary side.
Russell Saraka. So, here's something which I do in some of the, I had turned my Japanese comments on that. And I say this because people could might say, you always got part your brothers, you're inspired by you. We do like you put the sweat expense rate, but all the process is cheaper, accessible, to you can probably like that. So that's usually less pitch for this or in Goma. I see over I can run those people on. People about perceptive. I really know we come to work together. What is just what if I want something that's big before? That only chance took this way after that. It was done by people, there are say at the time, amazing technicians, people capabilities, but people who are very done and people unfortunately do also bad. Because we realistic about this is how to go. One you have now is to the pen, look you have a pen. He's a big one. And that's it. We need to go on. Yeah, it's still not being resolution, fine. But further see government change, we put this one.
What big problem in some of crypto right now for the mass or need to have that thousands more capability is the macro static. So that will obviously expect that Bitcoin protects those console big desktop. There is that level of this, but these guys doing what could happen most people institutions that subsequent voltages. And then also happen that subcontinents amongst us. When that happens, that starts dropping down. The education process of that is please. And that's what we I also believe that very good say the whole kind of leadership of the e-commerce and genuinely demolish here from what so classically right now Portugal come to be here to buy Token portion. I mean because of that is so I do think that we are now finally qualified the first way by separate graphic. We finally have the right institution on a global level to say this is peace technology, we are our force or to build something. And now the writers are saying, look at that, you see doing that, let's make click roll and look at see right now. We ship into our sale costs, let's work on bills. It's going to start valuing this too. You have now covered a large part of just day chase books. Maybe it will start being more visible to the masses. And then suddenly, all of those that are free will suddenly get recognition. Because people inside, you're only into someone say, if you know what is bullshit. You don't to worry about his bullshit itself, or the rock, or to do. And that is what starts here about the young. You make it clear from yourself there. So I think for us especially, and my entire team was dealing about tokenized securities. So I'm on you there. It's since you are seeing a lot more triple assets. But like I said, but the real product market is huge securities. We saw tokenized down it's 1,000% past 18 months. Tokenized sounds discuss to at the real check. Fluid laws in suddenly leadership law evolving away from traditional cultures, educate the Nordic. So I think definitely, especially the similar big going to be months going, source this way. You are getting famous says. I did you in the primitive time. So you maybe really should put the glass working and push up. And it seems with the learning. Yeah, and added accident so I need to master pressure how you teach some playing how to hit in the mainstream. Hey, to be husband pilot, you want so pack on that. So I'll just say right view on the shape the whole. There's you up like maybe money all said oh you report essentially or we basically did a transition for our clients' offices. Beyond from account structure currently into a work structure. So the money, if you look at the sectors as an example, you have aspects there as a saving account, check account, broker account, security account, insurance account. All your different accounts that they don't link to each other, they're all different company. It's very hard to get one portfolio view. Or we boost the light structure, all the different products, all the services, all the investment. You hold tokens in one buy and you come one overall portfolio, so much upsize. See where everybody is at, how it goes. So yeah, that's the big belief from a direct check double door, and that's all.
Kitty shop, I guess from today's standpoint, what excites us really is to be for the bridge in between the traditional finance and digital asset economy. To CJ's point, a lot of investors that go in their sustainability to really build value digital-based solutions that piece a lot of top capital accessibility and space. The same how really good touch a lot of our blind tokenized treasury prompts that we digitize because the economy kind of product cuts product is essentially what you cost allocate for it. So as a manager, we really want to build a product innovation that can be value add to investors, starting from sourcing a people who got investors in our view, digital assets economy can be part of global issues got growing. Contagions, because if the field assets to potential and relationship returns for us to serve a broader base of investors who go to potentially over time produce the assets on chain and grow product discount capital.
Yeah, so I think I will share perhaps different types of future factories that we have. So perhaps from the your perspective, interoperable and basically wallets whereby some of the whitelisting technology could take into account and move the pain of place in the determination of whether investor is a professional investor. So some of the technology has started in Europe and it's trending. Basically, one of the key pains as an asset manager is trying to find out whether your investor has net worth and finding them out by getting all their documented bank accounts and whatnot, right? And then that whole process can take months in order to determine it itself without that. And then you go to a different jurisdiction or another type of product, and you now have to do that suitability test all over again, right? So I think some of the discussions in the industry have been about the interoperability or the whitelisting of certain wallets to mark certain investors as having a particular identity associated in being able to trade a certain suite of products within a limited ecosystem of claims, which is quite intriguing. Because you are starting to also look at, for example, collateral and a common standard for collateral which is recognized by other players within that ecosystem as long as that common standard is within this. The difficult part is that rule book. What does that rule book look like? Are there enough big players as part of that rule book? And which of the jurisdictions who are allowed, who are interested in this project? And I think the last one I'll basically mention is transporting. That's a huge pipe dream. I keep hearing it year after year, but I do mention it because some of my good friends who are also involved in the regulatory regimes and questioning the regulatory regimes of emerging regimes, they are looking at basically if you have capital markets license in certain jurisdictions, can they expedite people license in certain jurisdictions? So that is a game changer potentially for tokenized distribution for certain types of offerings.
I think one takeaway I have from this conversation echoes one word that CJ mentioned, which is it will be on more conferences like this for some time in this industry. I think the quality of the conversation and the type of participants we have now in panels and shows really how far we come as an industry, as an ecosystem. I cannot thank enough our esteemed panelists this evening, and I really invite everyone to give them a big round of applause. So thank you very much. With this, I pass this back to the host, which will be Darien. But what's the next step, Darien? Tell us.
There is what? first experience của rất là